This is Nick Pearson with Lab Free for Computer Programming. So for this lab, we had to get these lights to blink one after another and then all light up, as well as getting this motor to work. The first one, the motor is supposed to stay on. The second light, the motor is supposed to turn off. The third motor, at the third light, the motor is supposed to pulse. And the fourth light, it is supposed to turn on, and then it's all supposed to turn off at the same time. Forward though, I would like to apologize. My motor is acting up right now. I had to resolder this wire, so the motor does require a little bit of turning to get it to actually turn. So with my circuit, I have my 13 pin going to my first LED, through that resistor to the LED, and then back here where all of the LEDs end up going back to the ground. My pin 12 is going through this wire to this resistor, blue LED, back to here, back to the ground. Pin 11, resistor, LED, green LED, back here with all the other ones, and then back to the ground. Pin 10, going to resistor, green LED, wire, back to this section, back to ground. Pin 7 is running to my button and motor, no, my button and resistor, I'm sorry. My 5 volt is running to the button as well as pin 7 to detect what's going on over here. So we got the button, the resistor, and then we have this red wire coming back to the ground on this side. So when I press the button, we will see that the first LED will light up as well as the motor will start to spin, probably with a little help. So we got the LED light up. You can see the motor is spinning. And then we will press the button again. Both LEDs light up. Motor stops spinning. Press it again. It should begin to pulse, like such. Now, I apologize for this. There we go. And then when we press it one more time, we should see this LED turn on as well as the other ones remain on. Yep, and then give it a little bit of a help, and we see that it is spinning. So we got all of them to light up as well as the motor to spin. And then for my code, I ended up setting, oh, everything's frozen. There we go. All my integers are set. My LEDs are set for 13, 12, 11, and 10. My motor is set to 8. My button is set to 7. The button state is set to 0, and that sets the position for the button. The button push is 0, so that's the value for the button push. I have 3 pauses I'm using. One is hold LED, and the other is hold motor. And then under void setup, you'll see all my pin modes that I set for outputs and inputs. My void loops is where I set the ifs. So for what I used is I said that if the button state is high, so that's saying that if the button state is high, push button plus plus. So this means that when the button is pressed, 1 is added to the value of push button. So right here, if push button is 1, that's when we saw that the push button was pressed once. It turns on the motor, or the LED and the motor. And then for push button 2, we see that since this is a value 2, motor 2 and motor LED 2 and motor 2 are activated. Not necessarily they're activated themselves, but the programming for those is activated. And then we have push button 3. So then when the value is 3, those are activated. Push button 4, those are activated, etc., etc. So we come down to my voids. So I have this different voids set up for the different LEDs and motor settings. So for LED 1, I had it set to digital write high, so that turns it on, and a pause. LED 2, I have it set to high, and then also a pause. LED 3, high, pause. LED 4, high, pause. And the motors, for the first one is set to high, that turns it on. For motor 2, it's set to low. This makes it so that the motor turns off because it's setting the voltage to low. And then come down to 3, that's where we had the pulse. The digital write is set to high, that turns the motor on. The button state is recorded on a digital read, and then we'll put a delay in there. And then if the button state is high, it's read as high, the loop is immediately terminated by this break. And then we come down, we have another pause. Digital write, motor low, voltage is low, turn the motor off. Digital state, or button state, and then digital read button sets and saves the pin, the position of the pin. And then delay, and then the voltage is high, the loop is terminated. And then another delay, push button adds 1, says voltage low, turns off the motor. And then void motor 4, sets it high, turns it on. And then reset I use to turn all of the LEDs off at the end.